Today I'll be taking you through Oracle SQL Basics demo class. Now before we start, let me tell you something about myself. Let me introduce myself to you. I've been working on Oracle database for more than 14 years now, and I've been involved in Oracle SQL, PL SQL, DBA training and database consultancy for various companies. Now, today I'll tell you about what exactly Oracle SQL Basics course contains and how this SQL course can help you in working with the database through any application or any tool that you want to, which interacts with the database. Now, the moment we say database, what exactly comes to our mind? So let me first tell you some database concepts, and then I will take you through all the contents that we are going to cover in our Oracle SQL Basics, and of course I will be showing you some examples to give you a feel of what kind of SQL statements you are going to write during this course. Now, when we say what is a database, what comes to your mind? A term which we all have come across a lot of times called database. People say, oh, I've got a lot of data stored in my database. So what exactly are they talking about? A database is nothing but an organized collection of information. Now, it is organized for a very simple reason, for managing it well and for retrieving. Very, very important purpose of it is retrieving this information. Now, when we talk about a database, remember, who does this for you? For storing the data, for managing the data, retrieving the data, what we need is something called as a database management system. A database management system allows us to do all this. It's basically a program. It's nothing but a software that allows us to store, retrieve, and modify data in the database. Now, giving you a little bit of history, we had the database, different types of databases earlier, something like a hierarchical database or a network database. And now today what we talk about mainly is a relational database. So what were they? Now, as the name itself says, hierarchical database, network database, or even people used to store data in flat files. All these databases were a little tedious to manage. So the ease of use was not there. So sometime in 1970s, a person by name Dr. E.F. Codd introduced a new database called as a relational database management system. Now, this term relational is very, very important in relational database management system. It became very, very popular mainly because of the ease of use. Now, this relational term in the relational database management system Is there a problem with my voice? Is the voice still breaking? Is the voice still breaking? Okay, let me continue. Right. So we were talking Talking about the relational database management system, where we said it became very popular mainly because of the ease of use. So what was this ease of use? The ease of use was that it allowed us to store data in the form of tables. Now this relation term is nothing but a table. It allowed us to store the data in the form of two-dimensional tables. As you can see in this example, we have employees table and department table, and what do you notice? What we have here are some column headings. What are they? They are nothing but fields or some columns of your table. So it looks like some table that we would have maybe drawn using a pen and a paper to store our data. So this became very, very popular as people could visualize this easily and people could store data in it easily. So relational database, we said, is nothing but a collection of tables, and table in turn is nothing but a collection of rows and columns. Now, to use this relational database, something more was introduced, and that was a language, which is nothing but a structured query language, or SQL, or also known as SQL. Now this SQL language, or the structured query language, was standardized after some time so that it could be used across databases. This became a standard language. And let me also tell you, this language is a very, very powerful language. It's a very complete language. It allows us to work with the database completely. You don't need any other language to work with the database if you have SQL. So yes, SQL became very popular along with the database. Now SQL basically was divided into 4 sub-languages. SQL has its own sub-languages called data definition language, data manipulation language, data control language, and transaction control language. Data definition language allows us to define the structure of the database objects. Now, what do you mean by database objects? A table is a database object. So if you are creating a table, or if you are altering the table, modifying the table, dropping the table, all this is done with the help of data definition language. Data manipulation language allows us to manipulate the data in the table. So if you are inserting the data in the table, you are talking about data manipulation language. If you are updating the data, if you are deleting the data, all this is part of DML, data manipulation language. Data control language allows us to control the access to the data. Now, you will also agree that when we are working on the database, there's not only one single user, there can be multiple users. So if somebody has to access each other's data, we allow them to with the help of giving them permissions. Now data control language allows us to do that. Transaction control language allows us to control the changes that are made in the database. It allows us to either commit the changes or roll back the changes. Now this is what we are going to go through in this course. Remember, our course contains working with all these 4 sub-languages of SQL. So now let me quickly show you what, of course this is just to tell you how your SQL works with this database. You write a SQL statement, it goes to the server, and that returns a result as a query result set to us. I'll show you this as examples, you'll understand this better. Right? So let me quickly tell you now what we are going to go through this in this course. What is exactly covered? What we will start with is what are the basic SQL statements. We will start with a select statement. Remember, we will always first try and understand how to retrieve the data, get the hang of the data, and then later maybe we'll talk about creating tables, inserting our own data, but first we will see how do we retrieve the data. So very, very important. we will look at is select statement. Let me quickly show you how do we work with the select statement, what does it look like, and what all we can do with this. So as I said, we will start with basic select statement. Let me show you here. I've already logged into Oracle here, and I've logged in as a particular user. I'm showing you the username here called Scott. Now remember, when we talk about a user, it can have many tables. So we will first like to see what all tables are present in this user. So let me quickly show you the list of the tables that are present for this user called Scott. I'm selecting from a place, from a table, or it's also known as a system table called tab. Please notice we've got a whole set of tables here, as you can see. I'm going to use this EMP table and the PT table in our examples just to give you a feel of how select statement actually works. So let me clear my screen. I'm giving you a simple select statement example as a select from the table. Now select what from the table? So I would like to first see select all the columns of the table and show me the result. Notice, how does the result look like? Does it look like a table? It looks like a table very much. You have all these column headings and you have all the row data here. Right? So I have given a very simple select statement saying select all the columns that are present in the EMP table. Now alternatively, I don't want to see all the columns, let us say. So what is it that I would like to see? I would like to see maybe a set of columns. So we can select a set of columns from the table as well. Very simple. Right? So we say select employee's number, employee's name, salary from EMP. Anybody, if you are thinking that how do I find out what all columns are present in the table, for that as well, we have a column, we have a statement called describe. So you can just say describe EMP, and this shows you the whole list of columns, and you can go ahead and select either all the columns or maybe few columns from the table. So this is what we will go through in the basic selection. And we will see what the different allocations. Just give me a second. Then we will go ahead and write some queries which allow us to restrict data, which is nothing but filtering data, using our conditions, using a where clause. So let me quickly give you an example using a where clause, what kind of select statements we can write. Let me clear the screen again. We said earlier we would like to see the details of the employees, but now I have got a condition in my mind saying I don't want to see the details of all the employees. I would like to see the details only for those employees who are working as managers. If you would have noticed in the previous example, we have a column called as job and we have data called as manager. Now also notice the text data will always be within single quotes. Oracle does not use double quotes. Now it says no rows selected. Why so? Let me quickly have a look at all the data. The reason is this. We have our data present in uppercase. So I was just trying to tell you that character data is always, when you compare is always case sensitive. Other than that, nothing at all is case sensitive, not the column names, not the table names, no syntax is case sensitive except for the string that you are comparing. So when you are comparing a string data, please remember you need to make sure that you use the same case as it's there in the table. So I've given you an example here where we are using a where clause and we are using a condition. Similarly, we have many more operators in giving conditions. Now this is what we are going to understand here. Remember, most of your select statements that you will be writing will contain conditions. So you will be using these operators to write your conditions. And of course, we will also see an order by clause. Let me quickly show you this. I would like to see the details of the employees, as we have done here already, but in the order of their department numbers. So I say order by the department number. What does this order by actually do? It does nothing but orders the result set. Do you notice the difference in both the result sets? This is in the order of their department number. So this is what your order by allows you to do. It allows you to sort your result sets. Then we will go ahead and have a look at single row functions, functions given by Oracle. We have some single row functions. We have character functions, number functions, date functions. They are very, very useful to work with our table data. Then we will go ahead and have a look at how do we work with data from multiple tables, or how do we select data from multiple tables. And the moment we say we are selecting data from multiple tables, we use a term called as joins. This is something that we used extensively in our database, saying we join our tables. So let me give you an example here again. Let me show you the two tables again. One, we said we are working with EMP. You are already familiar with it. Another table I'm introducing you is department. Do you notice there is something common between the two tables? What does it look like to you? It looks like we have a common column here called department number, right? So I would like to see the details of the employees along with the corresponding departments. Or maybe I'll give you another example here. I would like to see, I'll do this manually first, and then we will put it in a join statement here. Do you notice? Do you notice the department number column being same here? So, what are you seeing here? You're seeing that if I would like to find out what is the department name for Smith, what exactly are you going to do manually? You would first take the department number of Smith, go to the department table, see where does it match, and say, okay, Smith works in research in Dallas. So if something like this has to be done using a select statement, what do? We write a join statement. What I'm showing you right now is an equi-join statement, and of course, once we have started with the course, we will see this in details, all the different types of joins. Let me show you an example of the join first. I would like to see the employee details along with the corresponding department details from which table? From two tables, employee and department. But then, based on what condition? Our condition is the employee's department number should match the department's department number. Please notice, what do you see here? What you see here is a join statement. This is called as a join statement, where in your from clause you have multiple tables, and in your where clause you have a condition saying where employee's department number is equal to department's department number. Now, if anybody is thinking, what is this EMP dot DPT dot, let me tell you, this is nothing but prefixing the column name with the table name, because we have the same column name present in both the tables. So it gets ambiguous for Oracle. If I just say department number equal to department number, Oracle gets confused. So we are just making it more clear. We are removing the ambiguity by prefixing it with the table name. Now, we have many different types of joins. This is one simple example for you to get a feeling of what join means. This is an equi-join. In our course, we will go through all the other types of joins like non-equi-join, outer join, something very, very important. We will go to left outer join, right outer join, full outer join, and then we will also have a look at self-join. Remember, joins are something that you use a lot in a database, so very important topic for us. Then we will go ahead and have a look at group functions. Earlier I told you we have some single row functions. Then we will talk about something called as group functions. Group functions like sum, average, count, min, max. Now, these group functions we use with something called as a group by clause. Let me give you a simple example again here. What it actually allows you to do. I would like to see the sum of salary for all the employees, which is as simple as this. I'm using a function called sum. I'm passing the column salary to it. Very, very simple. But let's change this requirement a little and say, I would like to see department-wise sum of salary for the entire, for all the employees. So, please notice what I'm doing here is I'm saying department number and sum of salary. But I need to tell Oracle that I need to group by the department number. Now this is called as grouping your result set, using a group by clause and along with it using your group functions, right? This is a very, very powerful clause, as we say, which allows us to create something like reports. You will see something like this used mainly in reports, mainly in aggregations. So yes, we have a group by clause, then we will go ahead and have a look at having clause. We will see how do we nest our group functions. So when we are going through this course, we'll go through this topic in details. Then we will go ahead and also have a look at something called as subqueries. Again, a very important topic for us. We will understand that what if we have a requirement and we cannot get that data through one query only. I'll give you an example in a minute. What if I get the data through multiple queries? So let's take an example and you will understand it better. So I would like to find out what are the employees who work in the same department as Smith. I'm showing you the entire table data first so that you get a picture in your mind. Now I would like to find out who all works in the same department as Smith. Now the moment I say this, what comes to your mind first? What comes to your mind is, okay, first tell me which department does Smith work in. So you would first like to find out what is the department of Smith, saying where the employee name is equal to Smith, right? And you say, okay, department number 20. So now what is it that we can find out? We can find out who all works in this department, saying where department number is equal to 20, right? What have we done? We have got our result set finally, but in two steps. We could not get it in one single step. Now, instead of we taking the result of one, giving it to the other, what if we can let Oracle do this for us? So what we do here is we nest these two queries. We say we will have one query within the other query where the result of one is given to the other by Oracle itself. So we will not be doing this manually. This is manual what I just showed you. So let me give you an example here. I have my inner query being nested so that Oracle itself takes the result of this query and gives it to the other. Do we notice? Instead of doing this in two steps, I have just done it in one single step. What we have written is a subquery, an inner query and an outer query. Inner query is the one which gets executed first, which gets executed independently, and then it returns the result to the outer query. So inner query, outer query, this makes us write a subquery. Again, let me tell you something that is used extensively in our databases. So we will go through these subqueries in detail, talk about single row subqueries, have group functions, have having clause, and use two operators which are subquery operators called any operator and all operator. Then we will go ahead and look at how do we create and manage our tables. Very important again. But remember, what we have done till now, we have worked with our select statement, so we are very familiar with tables. Now we will understand how do we create our tables. Tables, as we know, looks like rows and columns. So let me quickly show you how do we create a simple table and give you an example of what exactly you will be doing through your course. So let us say I've got a requirement in which I would like to create a table for maybe something like items. So I'm creating a table called items where I would like to store item details. First thing that you should decide on when you create a table is what are the columns that you require in this table. So I would like to create a table called item which has columns like item number, where the data type is of type number, and the size for the column is maybe just four digits. Now this column I want should be a primary key. So I'm giving you an example where I'm showing you the column details, the data type, the size, and their constraints, or also known as keys. I have another column called item name, which is of type character, and maximum length allowed, let's say 30. I want that this value should be present. In other words, it is a mandatory column, so it's a not null column. I want something like item description, which is again a character column. This is no conditions on it. It is an optional column. Then I have a column called, let's say, rate, which is of type number, and this is a mandatory column. Please notice what have we got here. We have got 4 columns, their data type, their sizes, and their conditions, or the keys as we call them, their constraints. So this is what you will go through. Let me describe this for you. This is what we just created, a table with 4 columns, right? So we will understand how do we create our tables, how do we manage our tables. Very important again. Can we alter the table later and insert some new columns, or can we alter the table and add constraints or remove constraints? All this we will discuss in this particular topic. Then after creating table, what? Inserting data, of course. So yes, we will go through VML. We will have a look at how do we insert our rows, how do we update our rows, how do we delete our rows, and then very, very importantly, how do we manage the transaction in the table. In other words, how do we commit our data and how do we roll back our data. We will also see that as we have so many users working on the same set of data, how Oracle manages read consistency. How does it manage locks? Very interesting topic, in fact, you will come across, and very, very important if you are working on transactional databases. Then we will go ahead and have a look at some other database objects called views. Again, I'm sure we have come across this term called view. It's a logical table. Now, why do you need a logical table when you have something like a table there? So if I have a requirement saying I've got a table which has some 20 columns, and I have another user who should use this table, but it should be the user should be able to see only 10 columns out of all the other columns. Then what do I do? Instead of giving the permission on the table, I give the permission, or I create a view and give the permission on a view. So yes, view allows us to restrict the access to the data by creating something like a logical table. Then we will have a look at what are the simple views, what are complex views, can we perform DML operations on a view or not, and very, very interestingly, we will see the top-N analysis using views. Then we will go ahead and then we'll talk about some other objects like sequence, which allows us to generate sequential values, and we will also have a look at indexes, where I'm sure you have come across indexes in books, isn't it? Where you have your data stored in alphabetical order, along with it, it has some page numbers. Now, what does the index actually allow you to do? It allows you to access your data in the book faster. So same way in database also, we have something called as indexes that help us in faster access of data. And then we have something called as synonyms. We'll go through all these objects in details during our course. Then we will go ahead and look at data control language, where we'll see how do we give permissions, how do we take back permissions, what are the different types of privilege, if you're going to be involved in giving permissions, or maybe understanding what permissions you have, you can understand through this particular topic. Then we will have a look at how do we manage our data in different time zones. Today we are working across time zones, which we are already doing right now. So we will see how Oracle gives us or how Oracle allows us to work with different time zones. Now this is what we will go through in this entire course, and this will give you a very, very comprehensive learning in SQL, and will allow you to write SQL statements with joins, with subqueries. And remember, this course has a lot of hands-on sessions for you to work on. So by the end of the course, you will be proficient with SQL. Now, I'm going to unmute all of you, and if you have any questions, you can ask me.